The day of my wedding should have been the happiest day of my life. But the moment my mother arrived, I felt the weight of her gaze pressing down on me like a storm cloud ready to burst. I had imagined her smiling at me, proud, happy for me, maybe shedding a tear or two. Instead, she came with that familiar, calculating smile that always made me question what she was really thinking. As I walked down the aisle, every eye on me, I felt a surge of nerves. Excitement and fear all at once. Michael, my soon-to-be husband, stood at the altar, looking nervous but genuinely thrilled. He had no idea what kind of storm he was about to face with my family involved. The ceremony went off smoothly. I laughed when Michael stumbled over his vows. I wiped tears from my eyes, and for a moment, I allowed myself to believe everything could be normal. But then came the reception, and with it, my mother's little surprise. As I was cutting the cake, she stood raising her glass, and said in that honeyed, venomous tone, "We have something very special for the newlyweds." The room quieted. I forced a polite smile, nodding. She continued, "We are passing on the car that his parents gave you." I froze. The car. That car had been mine technically, but the way she said it made it sound like a weapon, a reminder of control, a subtle dig wrapped in a gift. She wanted everyone to feel that I owed her, that I had never truly escaped her shadow. Michael leaned over, whispering, "What is she talking about?" "I am not sure," I whispered back, my stomach twisting. I could feel the tension in the room. Friends and family glanced at me, sensing the undercurrent I was used to managing but could not hide today. I smiled politely and said, "Thank you, but really the car was my choice to keep. It has sentimental value, but we are just happy to have our day." My mother's smile did not waver. "Oh, I understand, darling, but consider it a token of our support." Her tone was sweet, but the way she said it made my skin crawl. It was not support. It was a statement, a subtle assertion of dominance. Later, as the night went on, I noticed small things, a misplaced bracelet here, a glass knocked over there, my mother hovering near Michael's family, whispering. She was probing, testing, looking for weaknesses, and I realized she had not come just to celebrate. She had come to control, to unsettle, to remind me that no matter how far I thought I had gone, I was still under her shadow. I decided then that I would not let her ruin my day. Not today. Not ever again. But the feeling of being trapped, of being watched, gnawed at me. I had been playing a game of survival for years with my mother, and this was just another round. The first real twist came during the toasts. My mother raised her glass and began speaking. She smiled at everyone, and for a moment, I thought maybe she had truly come to celebrate. Then she dropped the bomb. I remember when Anna was 15. She thought she could make decisions on her own, think she could escape our influence. But Michael, dear, you have no idea what you are marrying into. Anna has always been manipulative. She has always wanted what is not hers. But I suppose that is why I admire her spirit. Just make sure she does not outsmart you completely. A hush fell over the room. I felt my face flush, my hands trembling. My father tried to intervene, coughing, muttering something about tradition and pride, but the damage was done. I could see the shock on Michael's parents' faces. My friends were whispering, and my mother, oh, she was smug, watching the chaos she had stirred. I excused myself, slipping out to the garden where Michael followed. He looked at me, eyes wide. What did she mean by that? Are these things true? I took a deep breath, steadying myself. No, baby, none of it is true. She is trying to manipulate everyone. She is trying to make me doubt myself and make you doubt me. But you know who I am, and you know what I stand for. That is all that matters. We held hands, letting the cool night air calm our racing hearts. But I knew this would not be the last strike. My mother was relentless, and if I wanted to protect my life, my marriage, and my future, I would need to strike back carefully, methodically, without letting her see my plan. The next few weeks were subtle but intense. She would show up unexpectedly at our apartment, sending messages filled with coded threats, commenting on social media with passive-aggressive posts, and even sending small gifts that felt more like taunts than kindness. I realized then that my mother had perfected the art of psychological warfare. Every act of so-called generosity was a dagger wrapped in silk. I decided to document everything. Every text, every call, every visit. I created folders, printed copies, backed up screenshots. It felt like preparing for battle, and in many ways it was. This was not just about money, gifts, or appearances. This was about control. My mother wanted to control how I felt, how I acted, and ultimately, how my life unfolded. One night, after another cryptic message about keeping an eye on things, I knew it was time to escalate my response. I confronted her directly. I called her, voice calm but firm. "Mom, we need to talk. This has gone too far. Michael and I will not allow you to interfere with our lives anymore." There was a pause on the other end, long and tense. Then her voice, smooth and venomous. "Anna, darling, you always think you are in control. You never truly understand the game we play. But keep your little threats. It will amuse me." I hung up, knowing words alone would not stop her. I needed evidence, leverage, a way to make her understand that she could not touch us. Over the next days, I dug through old records, communications, and transactions. I found proof of her manipulation, of past attempts to undermine me, even using extended family members and friends as pawns. With everything compiled, I arranged a private meeting with a family attorney. I explained the situation, detailing every incident, every threat, every attempt to assert control. My attorney nodded, impressed at the thoroughness of the evidence. "Anna, you have a solid case. We can protect you and Michael. We can even take steps to ensure she has no access to you or your assets." Relief washed over me, but I knew this was only the beginning. My mother would fight back. She would try to twist the narrative, to use her charm and cunning to sway opinions. But I had something she did not: truth, proof, and the determination to protect my life and my marriage. The legal actions were swift. Protective orders, restraining notices, and formal complaints ensured that she could no longer harass, intimidate, or manipulate us. Every text, every email, every subtle threat was now on record. The weight of fear began to lift, replaced with a simmering sense of justice. As the months passed, our life began to stabilize. Michael and I settled into our home, decorating, laughing, and reclaiming the joy that my mother had tried to taint. Each day I felt the walls of control she had built around my life crumble. But I never forgot her smirk at the wedding, the way she tried to undermine my happiness, or the quiet threats hidden in gifts and words. That memory fueled my resolve, reminding me why I had to be vigilant, why I had to protect my family, and why I had to ensure that no one could ever wield that kind of power over us again. In the end, I realized that the sweetest victory was not confrontation, or revenge in the traditional sense. It was freedom. Freedom to love, to live, and to build a life on my terms without fear. My mother's manipulations could no longer touch me. And that sense of empowerment, of reclaiming my narrative, was far more satisfying than any fleeting moment of anger or triumph. And so, every time I drive past that car, a relic of my mother's attempt to control me, I smile. It is no longer a symbol of her power, but a reminder that I survived, I prevailed, and I will never let anyone dictate my happiness again. I am free. Michael is safe. And our life, our real, untainted life, has only just begun. After months of carefully reclaiming my life from my mother's shadow, I began to feel a sense of control I had never experienced before. But control came with responsibility, and I knew I could not allow myself to become complacent. Every message she sent, every friend she tried to manipulate, every sly remark aimed at me or Michael had to be anticipated and countered. It was exhausting, but I could not afford to falter. The first real test came when she attempted to infiltrate my circle of friends. She had a way of charming people, making them believe she was the victim or the generous matriarch just trying to support her daughter. One evening, I noticed an unusual pattern in my friend group. Subtle rumors. Questions about my financial stability. Doubts planted about my character. It was subtle, but I recognized the tactic immediately. I confronted my friends individually, calmly explaining the situation, showing them the documented evidence of her manipulations. I did not accuse, I did not raise my voice. I simply presented the truth. The reactions were immediate. Friends who had been swayed began to apologize. Others expressed shock that someone could go to such lengths to control another adult. It was empowering to see that when truth is clear and undeniable, loyalty naturally realigns. But my mother was relentless. She escalated her tactics, this time turning to Michael's family. She sent anonymous messages, implying that I was untrustworthy, that I had ulterior motives in marrying their son. She even went as far as creating fake social media accounts to post insinuating comments, hoping Michael's parents would question me. Michael and I confronted his parents together. I shared the evidence, showing screenshots, timestamps, and patterns of her behavior. It was intense, and I could feel my heart pounding as I watched them read through everything. Their initial disbelief turned into concern, then anger. By the end of the conversation, they were on our side. promising to ignore her manipulations and support us fully. That moment, their recognition of the truth, felt like a small but significant victory in the long war I was fighting. Even with allies now fully aware, my mother was far from done. She began sending gifts to our home, expensive things, each accompanied by notes that dripped with condescension. At first I wanted to throw them away, but then I realized she wanted a reaction. She wanted to see me falter, to show her that her power could still elicit fear or doubt. Instead, I documented every item, every note, every delivery. I stored them in a secure location, a growing archive of proof that one day might be crucial in protecting myself and Michael. The legal side of things progressed as well. Our attorney advised us to keep meticulous records, not to delete any communication, and to avoid any form of retaliation that could be misconstrued. It was frustrating at times, knowing I could easily respond in kind. But I understood that restraint was more powerful. Every step we took solidified our safety, ensured that my mother's attempts to manipulate and intimidate would not succeed. As the months wore on, I noticed a subtle shift in her behavior. The attacks became less frequent, more calculated. She seemed to realize that her old tactics no longer had the same impact. But I knew her. This was not surrender, only a pause, a regrouping. And so I stayed vigilant, keeping my defenses up, knowing that freedom had been earned but not yet secured entirely. Then came the day of the family gathering, an event that my mother had insisted on attending despite our efforts to limit contact. She arrived with her usual air of charm and authority, surrounded by extended family, members who seemed oblivious to the undercurrents of tension. I greeted her politely, acknowledging her presence without inviting conflict. Michael stayed close, offering quiet support. During the dinner, she made subtle digs, comments designed to provoke a reaction without overtly breaking social norms. But I maintained my composure, responding with calm, neutral statements, never giving her the satisfaction of seeing me shaken. Michael followed my lead, and together we navigated the evening, neutralizing her attempts to unsettle us. The turning point came unexpectedly. A distant cousin, previously unaware of the history, accidentally revealed that my mother had been spreading false stories about me, attempting to turn family members against me. The room went silent. I calmly presented evidence, showing the truth of her manipulations. The impact was immediate and powerful. People who had once been uncertain now clearly saw the pattern, recognized the deception, and my mother's influence began to crumble. I felt a strange mixture of relief and vindication. Relief that the truth was finally recognized, and vindication that all the careful documentation, all the patience and strategic restraint had paid off. My mother's carefully constructed image of control and power was cracking, and I was finally standing in a place where her attempts could no longer dictate my emotions, my actions, or my life. Over the following weeks, the dynamic shifted dramatically. My mother attempted to reach out through indirect channels, mutual acquaintances, and social media. But each attempt was met with polite but firm boundaries. Michael and I reinforced our home as a safe space, a sanctuary where we controlled the narrative and the environment. Each successful defense strengthened our confidence and deepened the sense of empowerment I had fought so hard to achieve. Then one day, a final twist emerged. An old family friend reached out, revealing that my mother had attempted to use legal threats to intimidate me into relinquishing certain assets she believed she controlled. It was audacious, but by then, I had amassed enough proof, legal counsel, and support that the threat was powerless. I calmly documented the communication, forwarded it to my attorney, and refused to engage directly. The culmination of all these events led to a final confrontation, not in anger but in quiet power. I met with my mother not to argue, not to beg for understanding, but to assert boundaries with unwavering confidence. I laid out the truth, calmly explained the legal safeguards, and made it clear that any attempt to interfere with my life, my marriage, or my home would have consequences she could not manipulate away. She smiled, as she always did, but this time I saw something different. A flicker of recognition, a subtle acknowledgement that her power was gone. It was not satisfaction, not gloating, just the quiet assurance that I had reclaimed my life. In the months that followed, life began to settle. Michael and I focused on building our future, our home, and our family. The sense of constant threat, of manipulation, and of psychological warfare faded into memory. I allowed myself to breathe, to enjoy moments of normalcy, and to truly appreciate the freedom I had fought to achieve. Looking back, the experience taught me more than just how to defend against manipulation. It taught me about resilience, the power of documentation, the importance of allies, and above all, the necessity of trusting one's own judgment and instincts. My mother had tried to shape my life, my marriage and my happiness, but I had taken control. I had turned fear into strength, manipulation into clarity, and threats into empowerment. Now, when I think of the car she once tried to use as a symbol of control, or the gifts meant to unsettle me, I feel nothing but a quiet smile. They are reminders not of her power, but of my survival, my vigilance, and my triumph. I am no longer the girl who trembled under her shadow. I am a woman who understands the value of boundaries, the strength of preparation, and the satisfaction of reclaiming her life. And as I sit beside Michael, our hands intertwined, watching our future unfold, I know that no one, not even my mother, can ever take this freedom from me. The past no longer dictates my present, and the story she tried to write for me has finally been rewritten. My life, my marriage, my happiness, they belong to me, fully and unequivocally. And that knowledge, more than anything, is the ultimate victory. I smile quietly, because the war is over, and I have emerged unbroken. My family may have tried to control me, manipulate me, and undermine my happiness, but in the end, I am the one who controls my life. I am the one who decides my future, and that is a power no one can ever take away.